Hello Rovers, it is now time to move on from the resonator and echo screens to the wonderful combat of Wuwa. So welcome to chapter 4 of How to Wuwa Combat Basics. I'll be honest with you, it's really simple. Once you deplete the enemy of all its HP, you win. If all of your resonator's HP are gone, you lose. Alright, that's it for chapter 4. Happy gaming Rovers, and I'll see you in the next... Nah, I'm just joking. While you win when you deplete the enemy of all its HP, there are several things to note during combat. The basics of combat will teach you the important terminologies of combat and what to look out for, especially while fighting elite and boss enemies. Now, let's go through the terminologies of combat, which can be found in the second tab of your tutorial book. You'll see some familiar terms that we've covered in chapter 1, but if you have forgotten, you can use this as a refresher as well. Resonance Liberation is basically your resonator's ult, and you'll need resonance energy to charge up your ult. Damaging or defeating enemies will generate resonance energy. Intro and outro skills will only trigger when the on-field resonator's concerto energy is full and the other resonator's icons are glowing. These skills will occur at the same time, with the outgoing resonator casting their outro skill and the incoming resonator casting their intro skill. Dodging enemy attacks will grant damage immunity, also known as iframes, for a limited amount of time. Attacking right after a dodge is called a dodge counter. So when a Trial or Dream Patrol in Rinasita asks for a dodge counter, this specific set of actions is what it is asking for. While the tutorial describes dodging very simply, there are quite a few important things not mentioned. Number 1. Taller characters get more iframes after dodging compared to shorter characters. I recommend checking out Sweet's delayed counter video for a more in-depth explanation if you're interested. I'll leave the link in the description with the timestamp if you want to check it out. Number 2. You only get 2 dodge charges when dodging in quick succession before it enters a short cooldown. By spacing them out in short intervals, you can avoid this cooldown. But this requires you to train your dodge discipline, which will be hard for newer players because that comes with experience. So, if you find yourself entering the dodge cooldown state and are unable to avoid the incoming attack, you can use your ult. Ult will grant you the iframes while the boss attacks through your ult animation. Number 3. Other than specific characters like Camellia or Brand, try to avoid going mid-air as much as possible during combat. This is really important because you only get one mid-air dodge, and coupled with a lack of time slow, even with a successful dodge, it makes you vulnerable to attacks. Moving on to counter-attacks. When dealing with elites and bosses, some of their attacks have a golden circle appearing, which is called a weakness halo. You'll need to time it right and land the attack in front of them for a successful counter-attack, or as people like to call it, parry. The main goal of parrying is to reduce their vibration strength, which is the white bar below the HP bar. Once this white bar is entirely depleted, the enemy will be immobilized and cannot do anything for a short period of time. It should be noted that some resonators have limitations in their counter-attacking capability. For example, the 4-star gun resonators Chixia and Alto are unable to parry at all. The best way is to experiment with your favorite resonators and do a trial and error for which move can parry and which doesn't. Generally, I like to dodge while trying to land a counter attack just in case I miss my parry. Alternatively, my other preferred method of parrying is using the intro skill to parry. I feel that this is the safest method because you can run far away from the boss and focus your attention on the golden circle. Time it just right, do the swap, and you'll usually land the parry. Of course, this requires you to roughly know the enemy movesets, because it is not practical to withhold your intro and outro skills for the whole fight just to parry the enemy. Counter skill is when a red warning prompt appears on an enemy. They can be stopped with specific echo skills such as the Cyan Feathered Herald. Though, I usually prefer dodging these attacks unless they spam the attack, like the Crownless Hologram for example. The tutorial mentions of a special cross-shaped warning appearing when an enemy uses their overclocking skill. In this state, the enemy's resistance to interruption is enhanced. Honestly, I don't really know what special crush hit warning they are referring to, and you don't have to either. Just treat the boss skills and attacks as you normally would by dodging them, and you'll do just fine. As for the rest of the effects you see on the tutorial screen, all you need to know is that if you're affected by these effects, it's bad for you. If you're the one inflicting these effects on the enemy, it's good for you. And that's pretty much it for the combat basic. I do realize that the things I've covered are quite survival in nature, but that's because to win the battle, you have to be alive. Once you've gotten proficient at the art of dodging, you'll find yourself dying fewer times even to late game content. But of course, that's not all to Wuwa combat. In the next chapter, we'll talk about some advanced combat techs, and one of them is Quick Swap. Quick Swap vastly increases your damage, but can devolve into mindless button mashing if you don't know what to look out for. Until then, happy gaming Rovers, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Goodbye.